So we've got an issue with some of the comments, and I guess it's not really an issue. I can kind of understand where people are coming from, but for the most part, no. We've seen a couple of these comments now come through on the fail of USBC in their tournament that they're running, where the two pairs, they had a couple of lanes, or a couple of pairs, I guess it was, that were just, they weren't oiled properly. Something happened because they hooked way more. And there were some comments where people were like, well, these girls and guys are professionals, so they should be able to adjust. You know, that's how bowling is. Things are going to happen. Now, I do agree. Bowlers should adjust. But the problem comes in not from bowlers not being able to adjust, but the problem comes in as the lanes are supposed to be oiled similarly throughout the entire house. And it was clear that these couple of pairs were not even close to what they were bowling on the other pairs. And you can see that by the woman throwing that shot left-handed and hitting the 10 pin in the face on her first shot, getting one. How fair is that to go to a pair that is that much different? And what are you going to do to get lined up? So now you have, I guarantee it takes 5-6 frames to get lined up to try to figure out what to actually do. What is she going to do? Move 30 right? Yeah, I mean, it's obnoxious. So it's not so much about they need to learn how to adjust. It's the fact that not everybody gets to bowl on that pair. Not everybody hits that pair. If everybody bowled on every pair in the house on the block, then sure, that would make sense. But not everybody hits that pair. So is it an advantage or a disadvantage to hit that pair? Well, by the looks of it, it was an absolute disadvantage. And I've seen it go the other ways around too, where the machine, for some reason, put out the house shot on a couple of pairs, and then the rest of the house, or half the house, was, you know, or actually what I've seen before is I've seen where the house will oil the first, let's say it's a 24-lane center, they'll oil the first 12 lanes of the sport pattern, and then they had change oil, add more oil, change cleaner, all that, and then they oil the next 12 lanes with the house shot. So not everybody gets to bowl on those pairs. Some people, if they're only just moving one, say you start on 1 and 2 and you're just skipping one each pair or each game, you're bowling on the sport pattern for all 3 or 4 games, however many games you bowl. And the people that are bowling on the house shot get to bowl on the house shot the entire time. This is where the unfairness comes in. If not everybody is hitting those pairs, then it's really not fair. So you can't really say that it's about making adjustments or this or that. That's not what it's really about. It's more about the integrity of, okay, obviously these pairs were messed up. And I feel bad for the women because, you know, if you go to that pair and you shoot a atrocious number, you shoot 120 and you lose 80 pins, let's say you miss the cut by 10 pins or something now, is that really fair? Because you didn't have a fair playing field. You know, and I've also seen a couple of people make comments, well, this is why this will never be in the Olympics. That is one variable. The problem and the reason why bowling won't make it to the Olympics is because there's too many variables. Is because there's too many bowling balls, there's too many cores, there's too many things that determine whether a bowler bowls well before their skill. Yes, skill and repeatability and consistency, those are all very important things, but the game and the technology has advanced so far over the years that the technology, the bowling balls, all this stuff is becoming even more relevant in the game than skill. Like, it's the only, you know, golf is the only other individual sport I can think of where golf clubs and golf balls have made golfers better without the golfer actually being better skill-wise. You know, and it's not nearly as dramatic as bowling. Like in bowling, if you know how to spin the ball, if you know how to curve it a little bit, buying a new bowling ball is going to increase your average a lot. You know, golfers that can hit the ball fairly well, buying a new set of clubs, it's not gonna lower your scores much. Maybe what, 1-2 strokes? That's not the equivalent of 10, 15, 20 pins a game by buying a new bowling ball. You know, maybe that's a little dramatic, maybe that's a little over drawn out, but you get what I'm saying here. It's a completely different game, and that's the other subject is people are sitting there saying, well, it's a game, and you know, I lean on it. I'm leaning on the fence there. I still consider it a sport because of how much skill is involved, and there is some strength that's involved, and there's a lot of technique and, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely a sport in my eyes, but I can see why people call it a game. Because there's so many variables that take over. There's so many variables that can determine whether you bowl well or not. You know, who you follow. If you follow the wrong people and you're cross, you're screwed. I mean, because those people are transitioning the lanes completely different than other people. If you follow the right group of guys, you can put up a huge number. And that's why it's so important out at the PBA level. Who you follow and the pairs you're going to is so important, because that's why you can have a 300 over block and then have a 50 over block. Well, what happened? What's different? Did I just forget how to bowl? Well, no, you hit different pairs, different topography, and you follow different people. So the transitions were different. The lanes played a little different. That's just kind of how it goes in most cases. So it's very difficult to put up huge numbers and stuff like that consistently. You know, the game is just, it's ever evolving. We're constantly changing. Things are getting better. We're, you know, trying to, the unfortunate thing is it's trying, it seems like a lot of it is trying to level the playing field out too much. Like, it's trying to make it to where, you know, you're trying to appease to the people who are not as skilled and make it to where they have just as much a chance, because, and it's truly that way, because you've got bowling centers where they will oil the lanes, like when they first figured out that they can manipulate the lanes. When they first figured out that they can oil the lanes specific ways to make certain bowlers bowl good and certain bowlers bowl bad, or they can put a little extra oil in the middle and less oil to the right to make it easier, and all of a sudden people are happier because they're scoring higher, and man, I want to bowl here more often, so they start bowling there more often, and now you got the house down the road that's like, well, I got to figure out a way to get my scores to go up so people are happy with my plays, and so they raise their scores, and it's a never-ending battle. It's constantly just trying to get the scores to go up, and that's kind of what happened. Is it's trying to make everybody happy instead of looking at the integrity of the sport, you know, trying to figure out how to make the skill the most important thing. You know, the integrity of the sport is more important to me. You know, where you've got people who say, well, why don't, you know, if you want to attract new bowlers, why not just put the house shot out for all the PBA events so you can show the difference between the PBA guys and the league guys? Well, that takes the difference away. Putting the league pattern out there makes it to where, you know, the league guy has more of a chance against the PBA guy. Whereas if you make them tougher, the league guy has zero chance against the PBA guy. You know, so it's a battle. It's a conversation that's been had before. I'm always going to stand on the side of integrity. I'm always going to stand on the side of actually showing off a bowler's skill more so than the variables that come into play. You know, I personally, I would like to see, I would rather see for the PBA, I mean, this would never happen, of course, because you're taking a lot of money out of the ball companies, but I'd like to see to where, you know, maybe every bowling ball company has to stay, for PBA bowling balls, they have to stay within certain parameters. Like, okay, the only bowling balls that can be used on tour are balls with a differential lower than 35 and RGs higher than 250. You know, you can't make these super soaker bowling balls or these big giant cores that rev up a bunch, and, you know, cover stocks have to be harder than 86 or so, you know, something along those lines. So now we're talking about skill type bowling balls that aren't as soft, the cover stocks aren't as absorbent, they can't absorb X amount of oil, you know, stuff like that. So now the companies have to come out. Not only are they coming out with the big super soakers for, you know, the league bowlers and all that, so they can have fun, but if the league bowlers truly wanted to figure it out, you know, and bowl on tour, they have to use these bowling balls that don't hook as much, that don't give you as much leeway. You know, it's kind of like in golf, it's like using blades versus the cavity backs, the ones that are forgiving, you know, where you don't have to hit them crisp for the ball to go fairly straight. The blades, if you don't hit them crisp, your ball's going to go all over the place. You have no idea what's going to happen. And I'm not a golf expert by any means. I just know there's a little difference, you know, between the blades and cavity backs and stuff like that. You know, we've talked about, or I've talked to some golfers about stuff like that. So there's a little bit of difference in those clubs, just like I want to see difference in bowling balls. Again, like I said, none of that would ever happen, but it would be nice to see something like that go down. That's another portion of how I think the PBA could improve. You know, now that's wondering, okay, so does that mean the two-handers would then dominate more? Maybe. You know, maybe they would, because they can create more motion with those lower diff, higher RG bowling balls than what a one-hander can. But then again, that still brings accuracy to the forefront. It brings consistency to the forefront. And that's not saying two-handers aren't consistent, especially the elite guys. You know, your Belmo, your Simo, Svensson, you know, those guys, Troop, all those guys, they're very accurate, very consistent players. So it's not like, you know, you would really be taking it. If anything, maybe it would make those bowlers more dominant. I don't know. We'd have to try it. We'd have to figure it out. But you didn't see the two-handers dominate on the plastic ball tournaments, right? You know, so I don't know. There's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot to go in. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about all of this stuff? What do you think about, you know, things that can, what do you think can happen to help the PBA, to help the WPBA or the PWBA or whatever it is? You know, how can you help these organizations be better? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to get that book. You know, got the mental game book. We've got the the release book on there, The Art of Revolution. Sales have been really good on those over the last few weeks now. I guess I should say for the last week for The Art of Revolution. You guys, I appreciate the support on those. Thanks again. And let me know. Maybe there's another book you want to see. I got a bunch coming out, but give me ideas in the comments below. What kind of a book would you like, ebook or paperback book, do you want to read about bowling? Let me know. So I'm out of here. We'll see you guys later. Take care.